Yep, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started so that we can do a little bit of reviewing and talking about the test itself this morning. And doing a lot of research this week in preparation for helping prepare you for the test. They have changed the test in the last 30 days and even have changed it in the last 14 days. So I think there's some things that I want to talk with you about today that will help you as we're going through the next 3 weeks and as you're studying, prepare for the test a little bit better. But I wanted to start off with looking at some questions from our units from the weeks before and seeing some of the harder questions and seeing how you might do on some of these questions on a test, kind of a little bit of a review every week. So I'll open those up. Let's see if I can get rid of some Zoom stuff here. First, I want us to take a look at some of the sample questions from the test so you can see, not that, some of the sample questions from the test so you can get an idea of what some of them look like. These are actually off of the site, and there's some sample exam questions just to give you an idea of the formats of them. So the first format is, of course, just a multiple choice. And if you look at it, it says, students in your history class are having difficulty understanding the significance of World War II. What activities could help students get more engaged? Choose 2 answers. So if it's a multiple select, it's going to always tell you how many answers there are, which is very helpful because at least you know to narrow it down to two. So if you were, and we're gonna have mass participation here today. If you were looking at this question, what would you pick for answers for this question? Or let's use test-taking strategies. What would you not pick for the answer?
What question are we on? Because I walked away.
The first one, sample question 1. We have 2 answers that are correct. And the key word here, you have to look for keywords. What activities could help the students get more engaged?
It wouldn't be the one about answering questions at the end of chapters of the chapter.
So we've eliminated 1.
I think it would be the first one and the third one.
And
Definitely the first one.
And I think you're right, because the middle one, even though they could give them a file exam and forms, that's not going to really engage them. So no. Look at all the words, and you are correct. It is the YouTube and the Explore tool to search for more information. So note that it's going to always tell you how many answers and to find keywords. The second one is a drag and drop question. It doesn't even give you the answers, but there's a feature and a benefit. I've got one of those to show you in a few minutes. And you drag them to match. And that's another type of question that you'll see often in the multiple choice part. The last 2 are performance-based scenarios. And I wanted to show you this because if you look at sample question number 3, your students have answered a few questions about an upcoming presidential election and submitted their results in a Google form. You want to review their opinions to prepare for an upcoming class. So it tells you exactly what you have to do. Now understand, when you log in, first of all, you're going to log in on an incognito screen and you're going to log into their instance of Google. It's not your Google, it's their Google, and they'll have everything you need there in that instance of Google. So it says access the form, election opinions, and view the results in a spreadsheet. So in their Google Drive, in the test Google Drive, you'll go and you'll find that form in the spreadsheet, election opinions, and open it up. Sort the sheet based on student first name and ascending alphabetical order, so you'll sort it. Create a pie chart that represents who they select as their favorite candidate. You'll create a pie chart. And all of that remains there, and they can see that you sorted it. They can see how you created a pie chart, and they can see that obviously you know how to open a spreadsheet. So those are the types of activities that you'll see. You don't have to save them or anything, because they're automatically saved So Amanda has her own little testing environment, Michelle has hers, Kara has hers, Ed has his, and so on and so forth. So whatever you do remains there for them to score. So that's an example of a performance-based scenario. Questions about that? Okay, I would always, every time that I do something, even if it's in their environment, check the sharing privileges if you create anything in particular. Because if they tell you, for instance, to create a Google Doc, or you create a sheet and copy and paste some information in there, if you create it and it's not shared with them and they can't get to it, then that's going to count against you. So sample question 4. You want to be sure that your students are able to view your award winners broadcast at a later date. You decide to share the video again via your YouTube channel to maximize views. Complete the following task. Find the award winners video on your YouTube channel. There's certainly a possibility that they might ask you to create the YouTube channel even before this. Add a poll with the following question: what should we tackle next? Provide your own answer, so you would create a poll. We haven't gotten to YouTube yet, obviously. Share the video with your students. So those are just some examples that they give on the site of different types of questions. So you can see how each performance-based scenario has multiple parts to it. There may be times when you even, like, let's say one of the performance-based scenarios might be to create a site, and then 2 or 3 or 4 performance scenarios down the road, they may make you go back to the site and do something else with it. So any questions about those examples? Okay. Then let's go back and review some of the multiple choice questions. And I think I'm going to call names here. I made a new tool for you. Excuse me. Like I said I was going to do last week, under exam prep. What I've done is I have got, and I've only done it for the questions that we've already done. So I didn't want to put the questions and answers in from today. But if you look over here on exam prep, and you can look if you want to, or I can just show you. Under practice questions 1, this is a self-testing slideshow. So all the questions from the end of every unit, every chapter, and every unit are all here. So here's the question, here's the answer. Here's the question, here's the answer. So when you get ready to study, you'll be able to go back to these and go through them all without having to go back to each individual chapter and unit and everything. And I'll add today's after we finish today. So that should help you study. But what I did is I pulled out some of the harder questions, or at least the ones, whoops, wrong one here. Let me put that back. Pulled up some of the harder questions that were, or at least that I thought were hard anyway, and pulled them up for us for today on the first unit. So here's what I'd like to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to answer these questions in the chat, if I can find a place in my screen to get it open. So the first question is, I'm going to let you read it. I'm not going to call it out to you. See if you can pick, we'll call each box A, B, C, and D. See if you can pick what the correct answer is to this. Let's see if I can get chat open here. So let me look at chat while we're doing the screen, sharing the screen. Apparently not.
Did I give that elephant a name?
Yeah, you don't need to put your name, it'll come up anyway. I don't see any answers. Are you all putting them in, or am I just not? There we go. Remember, it's always the best answer.
I don't see the screen where,
Yeah, let me put it back. I think this isn't going to work. I'm going to have to, no wonder you can't answer. There you go.
well, I seen it originally and then it went away.
Yeah, oh, here, now I can do it. Here we go. I couldn't figure out how to get chat to open up. And I still can't. There it is. There we go. Now I got it. It's popping down from the top. Now I can see it. I'll give you about 30 more seconds.
What's up? Huh? What do you want to eat, honey?
Okay, I'm going to go on to the answer. So if you picked communication and collaboration, you were correct. I mean, obviously community is not one of the answers. And since they're doing web browsing and just writing notes, then creativity wouldn't be one of the answers either. Initially, I think when I took that, I may have picked creativity too.
Yeah.
So that kind of threw me a little bit. So this time, I think I'm just going to call on some people because that's taking a long time. Let's see here. What are ways students can ensure their information is not saved in their Chrome browser when they are done in the computer lab each day? So let me have one of my tech folks answer that question for me.
Use incognito window.
That's a good one.
And clear the browsing history.
That's a good one too. Anybody else have another answer? Here's how you can see it right underneath there on the screen. Yeah, I think that kids think if they shut down the computer, that will take care of it, and obviously it doesn't. All right, next question. Leave it down here so you can't see the answer. Which of the following tools are part of G Suite for Education and thus covered by G Suite for Education Services? Let's see. Sarah, how about you? Do you know the answer to that one?
Sites and Drive.
They are definitely part of it. Let's see if she's got the right answer here. Exactly right. YouTube and Chrome are part of Chrome, but they're outside of the G Suite, which would be Doc, Sheet, Sites, and Drive. Good job, Sarah.
Nice.
All right, parents are looking for guidance on what to tell their children about being safe online. If you could give them 3 simple tips that underlie everything, what would they be? So instead of telling me what they would be, tell me which one is wrong. Ed, how about you this time?
I would say avoid the first site in the search results is the wrong one.
I think you're exactly right. Because that really has to do more with researching and not as much with internet safety. Good job, y'all. Y'all got all the stuff down pat. When you want to provide your students with steps on how to do an advanced Google search, which of the following is the best place to look first? These things kind of confuse me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I would definitely review this before you take your test, just to make sure you've got your mind wrapped around it. Anybody want to answer that question? I won't call anybody out because I think this is a really hard.
I would say Google for Education Help Forums.
Okay, let's see if he's right. Google Help Center.
Help Center.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good example of why I put this question in here. Well, first of all, I would have searched it on Google probably first because I could have found it quicker and I wouldn't have had to figure out which one of those to go to. But the Help Center is the one that has the different programs and how to use everything. The Google for Education thing is more focused on how to use it in the classroom. Okay. When you're looking for ideas on how other educators are using Google Drive with their students, where would you look? I think I may have just given you that answer. So therefore I'm going to go on. Okay, so search or education help.
Okay.
Now, the difference between this question and that question is this had one right answer,
Mm-hmm.
and this had two right answers. So that's, again, if you had this question on the test, it would say select two, which would help you understand it. Okay. If you want to find a local Google expert who could show you some interesting new ways to use Google Maps in your classroom, you could search for which of the following. And this is another one that a keyword is an important thing. Let's see here. Who have I got? Monica, you want to try that one?
I would go with innovator.
Okay. And I believe you are correct. Okay, and here's the reason she's correct. If you want to find a local good Google expert who could show you some interesting new ways, I picked trainer because, yeah, but the keyword there was interesting.
Correct.
Okay. If you want to find a local Google expert who could come to your school to do specific training around Google for Education tools with teachers, you would search for which of the following. Can't see if I can go back if I find my people again. My list of people is gone. I'll have to ask for somebody that hasn't answered a question yet. There we go.
I'll take it.
Okay, thank you.
Google for Education Certified Trainer and Google for Education Partner.
Good job. There you go. And I am, if an innovator is going to show you interesting ways, I don't know why they can't give you training too, particularly since they have gone through all that certification, but apparently these are the answers that Google wants. So, all right, a couple more. Which of the following online resources could you use when you want to search for how to do something with a Google tool? Select all that apply. Somebody that hasn't answered.
Oh.
1, 2.
Well, we know it's not Google Drive, right?
Right.
Okay. Those three. All right, we're going to stop there for today. We're going to review a few every time. We'll stop there for today because I do want to go over a portion of the things about the test, so when you study, you'll be able to prepare for it a little bit better. I'm going to go to the website, and I've created a whole list of things here that will help you understand how to take the test. So I'm going to just pop it out so you can see it. It's a Google Doc. It's embedded in the website. Get this out of the way for a minute. Okay. So it's divided up into sections. We're not going to go over all of them today. We're going to go over the what to expect section today. So it's just what to expect. Tips before you take the test and tips when you take the test. So today I want to talk a little bit about what to expect. If you weren't on here earlier, I mentioned that they have changed the testing company in the last 30 days. And they've changed some of the way they're doing things in the last 2 weeks. And I'll give you an example of that. 30 days ago, when they changed the testing companies, you couldn't search anywhere on the internet for answers. And I was like in a panic, oh my gosh. But 2 weeks ago, they decided that that was not the right way to approach it, and they are allowing you to search again. So it's a new company, a new system. I see a lot of little quirky things happening. So don't panic. They have a help desk if you need it. So let's look at the what to expect. Before you take the test, and not now because it's only good for 7 days, you have to pre-register. You pre-register on the same site as the training. So if I clicked on this link, you're here on training. You click on the certification tab and it tells you to register for the exam right here.
Okay.
Okay. Now, a costs $10 to register. I know that y'all been working on vouchers and that kind of stuff. So, Michelle, where do we stand with that?
Luke is working with Jeremiah at this point. I believe we got a verbal from Google that the vouchers will be provided. I think I just need to figure out how many vouchers we want.
Okay, and I'm going to do a little bit of research about how it works with the voucher, but I know there's a voucher number that you put in there, but I just want to make sure I've got all that down. The test lasts 3 hours and you have to complete it in one sitting. Now, when I say plan on staying at the computer the entire 3 hours, one of the tips a lot of people gave is go to the bathroom before you sit down, because if you get up and you're gone too long, it's going to log you out. And then you're going to have to log back in, and that's going to take more time. So it's really 3 hours will go by in a hurry. But so if you need water and snacks, have them with you. If you need to go to the bathroom, I mean, don't drink like a gallon of water before you start. I don't know what the timeout is on it. I can check and see if I can find out. But I mean, I know that I did get up quickly one time and I was okay. But the amount of time that you're taking, I mean, every minute counts. So you have to have the latest version of Chrome, and you have to have a working webcam. Now, the next two things, I've seen mixed opinions about these. I'm going to check on this. I've seen in 2 places that you can't use 2 monitors, and in 2 places that you can use 2 monitors. Some of the people that have taken the test recently have said that the first thing you have to do is take a picture of your work area and upload it. Some people haven't had to do that, and that's what I mean with things changing. So I'm trying to do some more research into that, and I'm going to send an email to Google just to verify it. I know a lot of you are used to using 2 monitors and probably have that set up. So I'm looking into that. I'll let you know for sure. Your webcam has to be working because it stays on for the entire test. And the reason for that is that they want to make sure that you're taking the test. So when the test starts, you have to take a selfie. And then periodically, they'll take a picture of you in front of your computer throughout the test. If your webcam lights up, I'm not sure that mine does, but it's not like there's going to be some big camera flash, but they do take it periodically to make sure that you are taking the test. ProctorU is the name of the new test advisor. They do have a help desk. We'll talk more about that later. John Sowash took the test 2 weeks ago, and I really like what he did with this. He wrote down the number of questions on all the different things that you could possibly be tested on. And if you look at this chart, here's the 2019 test, here's the 2020 test. So in 2019, there were 2 questions on Meet and Hangout, same thing in 2020. But if you look at it, there's definitely some difference, and for sure you won't all get the same test.
Debbie, I have a question.
Yes.
Is this document on the website?
This document's on the website under, that's where I got it from, under exam prep.
Got it. Thanks.
Just pop it, you can just pop it out here. So you can see that there were a lot of questions on Drive. He had a lot of questions on Drive. He had a lot of questions on Sheets, which is kind of surprising. And then he didn't have many questions on other things. He had no questions on Draw, 0 questions on Blogger. There was 1 last year. Blogger is not even covered in level 1 anymore. It's covered in level 2. So you don't even need to worry about that. He's just showing, but take a second to look at this chart. And I think as you're studying, you know, you can see, I think there were, you know, there were many questions on mail. You know, a few more on docs, which is no problem for you, but it gives you an example. This is not just the multiple choice questions. This is the multiple choice and the practical application all together. And he actually has a video that, let's see if this is it. Yeah, this is a video of him just taking the Google Level 1 Educator exam. If you want to watch that, I found it very helpful. The focus again is on the core tools and how they're used in a classroom setting. And this is the FAQ from Google. So as you're studying, you know, this little chart may be of help to you, you know, knowing that, and I will find out definitely by next week, I hope, knowing whether or not you can have 2 monitors, knowing that you're recorded. It says on the Google site that you can use all your notes, anything that's not, it doesn't speak directly to the verbal piece of it. See, I've got that on here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it.
And Debbie, this is a silly question, but I have my laptop hooked up to a monitor. So, I mean, it's my laptop screen and a monitor. I don't know if that counts as, like, some people have 2 monitors, you know, so.
Monitors if they don't let you use it.
Okay.
So that's why I want to find out to be sure.
Yeah.
I thought I had that on here somewhere, but there is definitely a list of things you can use. I know that I've got it here somewhere. I'll find it and we'll go over that next week. I really just wanted to go over this stuff with you. And don't worry about too much about that yet. Let me just find out for sure, because it seems like maybe that was a rule at the beginning of the month and now it's not anymore. So don't fret about that until I find out for sure. I'm checking with Google on that. All right, so as far as what to expect is concerned, what questions do you have about that?
Do we have a date for this test yet?
It's whenever you set it up.
Okay.
You have to register yourself. You don't register as a group.
Gotcha.
You take it whenever you feel like you're ready. I would highly recommend that you go ahead and study for it and take it while it's fresh in your mind and not wait, several months to do it. I think one of the goals for us doing it when we did is we finished up on June the what? July the 23rd. Whoops, wait a minute, wrong date. I was in June. July the 21st. So that gives you the rest of the month really to study and take it before all hell breaks loose the beginning of August.
Mhm.
So that's one of the reasons we did it like we did. And honestly, really the only studying you can do is when we're going through the content of this, just like for instance, you don't need to study about docs. You use them all the time. The things that are harder for you, like for me, I have to go back and study the formulas and sheets because I forget them all the time. Little nuances of things like I'm going to show you today about mail and calendar and that kind of stuff. Not the big stuff. I know how to use it, but there are little things they ask that I go, where in the heck is that? And that's why I gave you the participants guide, so you can take notes about things when you're going through it and when we're going through it. And then YouTube, I have to study that all the time. So, or if there are things that you don't know to study, go back all the questions and answers again. What I would do if I were you is when you get back to this, closed it, I think. I can open it again. Yeah. When you get back to these review questions, like for me, I would just make a copy. I mean, you won't be able to delete the questions in here, but I would just go file, make a copy. When I go through, if I get it right, delete it. And if I don't get it right, save it. And then I've got just the things I don't know to go over again. And I had to do it by units because it would just be so long if I didn't. What other questions do you have?
Last week we focused on forms, and maybe I don't know if I missed it, but did we also go through all the visualization with the forms? So you create a form, all the answers dump into a spreadsheet. But the question you just brought up was create a pie chart, and there was another way to visualize it. Did we go over that last week?
I thought we did, but I can certainly go over at the end of it today really quickly and show you. But given, yes, I mean, you can definitely look at, let me just do it real quickly while we're right here. Really.
And you know what, Deb? I wasn't able to stay on until 12, so I think you had an extended Google form.
So if this is my form, and it's a good question. Here's a visualization of it under responses. There are no responses, great. I would see pie charts and everything here, or I would open up a spreadsheet with the data in it. So they're not going to let you take the pie chart from responses. They want you to make a chart from the data. And we'll get to that when we get to sheets.
Okay, and we will be putting the data into the forms?
They'll give you the data.
Oh.
They'll give you the whole spreadsheet. So like back when I went over that question, oh, I closed it. When I went over that question, it said open up the spreadsheet that's got such and such and such in it, because that way the data is already there for you. if they want, like if they give you a Google Doc, they don't say type such and such, and they'll give you the text to put in there. Or if they want something specific, they'll say type in my name is such and such, and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you. And I see like you're recording this, and I wasn't able to
Record
show
last week.
the last 90 minutes. So where are the recordings of your extended sessions?
I will link them to the web page. I did not record last week. That's why I recorded today. So I'll link them to the website.
Thank you.
Okay. And the other thing I did not point out is everybody that's taken the test recently has said there are 20 multiple choice questions. I think I said 20 or 25, and 12 scenarios, each one having multiple parts.
And that's 3 hours right there. So like 20 multiple choice and 12 scenarios.
Yes.
Just trying to get, so they must be intense scenarios then.
They're not little tiny things like the ones I just showed you. They might be like, build a Google site and put this and this and this in it and share it with, you know, your students, or add it to your Google Classroom, or they're all multiple steps. So they can have anywhere from 3 to 4, 5, 6 different steps to them.
Gotcha.
And that doesn't sound like a lot, but
Yeah.
Again, it's taken me all 3 hours for every test I've ever taken from them.
Okay. So we could be building a site, building a form, taking the data from the form in Excel, turning it into pie charts. We could be, in sheets, we could be adding formulas. So it's like a multi-step in each one. You're like creating a mini, I don't want to call it a project, but it's probably integrating each of the tools.
Yes, you will be using all the tools we go over. I really liked what somebody suggested as far as, and I went down a little further than I was going to. We'll talk about this again later, but this was the time breakdown that they suggested: 40 minutes for the multiple choice, 2 hours for the scenarios, and then that gives you 20 minutes to go back and look, or in case you have something happens, there's an emergency, you have to get logged out and go back in. So that was a pretty good breakdown of it. You'll also be able to mark things for review. So you can go back and check them, and we'll talk more about that next week.
So since we're talking about the test right now, question that I have is, because I know our team, you know, the coaches in my office who work with these tools every day with teachers, some of them did not pass because they ran out of time. And it was mainly because of the scenarios. Will we be able to get examples? Do you have examples of what it might look like so that we can kind of practice running through it? Because like right now, at least for myself, like I'm going through all these practice things and stuff like that, but it's with tools that I don't use all the time. So like, it's really hard to recreate or create practice opportunities for myself, if that makes sense.
So Michelle, two of the last 2 examples I showed you today, the one about the spreadsheet and taking the data and sorting it by last student name and creating the pie chart, that's an example of one of the things.
Okay. And so if we were to create that, would we be able to like share it with you for review, or could we, you know, maybe like the last couple weeks go over like one session or something?
Yeah, if you want to. I mean, like next week we're going over Google Classroom. So let's take that for instance. If you're not used to using Google Classroom, then as we go through Google Classroom and set up another one. Do all the component parts, set up until you feel really comfortable with knowing where everything is, just keep doing it. Google Sites, make a Google site. If you're not comfortable with it, make another one. If you're not comfortable with it, make another one, just until you get comfortable with it so you can do it. Like time yourself when you make the first one and see if you can cut that time in half. I mean, really that's all you can do to practice it. And I would focus on the things I'm not comfortable with, or the things that I don't use as much. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. I guess I was just looking for examples so that we would have context for which to build, because
I have some more for you for next week.
Right, and you know, it's hard to kind of, especially for a lot of people on the call, like for myself, I'm in the educational world, but not everybody here is, so they might not be able to conceptualize what it might look like for like a teacher or something like that. So I'll just keep an eye on the.
Yeah. And I have some more samples for us to go over next week. Here's some other examples. I'm somewhat concerned about this one because I feel like there's a lot more information here than I should be sharing with you, but Let's see, these
Never
are,
too much. It's all good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think this is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm only supposed to be.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So like, here's another scenario. You've recorded the percentage scores your students achieved in their last 4 math tests. You plan to analyze the data to review the progress of your students. Open the math test grade sheet and use the formula function to calculate the average score of each student. Use the filter function to sort the students in descending order by average score. Create and place 2 compelling charts from the student test data in the sheet. Share the sheet with your colleague, Mr. Dunn. Now that's a little more realistic than the one that I showed you earlier, because that was just sort the kids and make a pie chart.
Right.
This is open it, calculate the average, filter it to sort students in descending order, make 2 charts and share it. That's a little more like what a scenario is. So multiply that times 12.
Got it.
And that gives you what, 10 minutes for each scenario, 120 minutes, 12. And Michelle, the answer to that is I can certainly make some things like this and I'd be happy to do that, but I don't want to make something that's not going to be on the test and have you do it. I mean, if you would like for me to, particularly on the harder things, I can definitely do it. And that's kind of what the task cards are supposed to be. It's examples of things that, make a site, do this, do this, do this, do this. And if you go through that enough times that you can do it quickly, you should be okay with that.
Okay.
Can you skip questions and then go back to it?
I'm sorry.
Can you
Yes,
skip-
you can, and we'll talk about this again next week too. So there's a checkbox that says mark for review. So if I don't know an answer to a question, I can mark it for review and come back to it. But my recommendation to you is answer it to the best of your ability, mark it for review, and then come back to it. If you answer it to the best of your ability and you run out of time, at least you might get 1 part back. You leave it right, might get 1 part right. If you leave it blank, you're going to get it wrong. So do it to the best of your ability and come back. And I did that with, you can mark the scenarios to come back to. Like there was probably something like this where I needed to, I think it was YouTube though. I was having trouble with the channel and I marked that. I went back, I checked the multiple choice ones I needed to check. And I marked everything that I thought I might want to look back at.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions?
Yeah, is it possible, like next week when we're in unit 7 and 8, this 8 is all about sheets and quizzes and analyzing data, formulas and charts. Maybe if we could do a performance task together, I mean, that might be beneficial.
Okay.
Given the range.
Next week is Google Classroom.
Oh, it is? Oh, I thought.
But I can certainly, and let's have a discussion about this. Instead of going through the idiosyncrasies and the little things that I think you might miss, we can certainly, our hour together can be spent on, like next week, we could do a performance task on Google Classroom. The week after that, we could do a performance class with sheets and quizzes. I really thought, and then the extra help questions, the extra help sessions are really more for people that don't know anything about sheets and classroom and quizzes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to chime in here just
Good, Michelle, thank you.
from the sheets world. I know where Fran's coming from. Definitely for sheets, I think getting more hands-on demo and practice during this time for
Okay.
sheets in particular would be super helpful.
All right.
I think I'm just speaking for myself. It intimidates me a little bit. And I know that there's a lot of nuances, and sheets aren't something that we use the features that you showed in the task on a regular basis. We have a handful of team members that know how to do it, and we rely on them. And then in terms of classroom, I know, from our conversation with Monica and Kirk and stuff, Google Classroom is really
Important.
Forget about the certification, just for like our knowledge base. I think Google Classroom is super important as well. So I think going through the performance task for both of them, I think would be really, really, really good, particularly for those 2 topics.
Okay.
And then for those of us on the call, we just make sure that when we come in on Tuesday that we've done like the legwork behind it.
Okay. That's absolutely fine. I mean, I definitely can do that. Are y'all familiar with Excel? Or is it just not, spreadsheets are just not something that you use?
I use Excel.
Familiar with it.
Yeah, I mean, it is extremely similar to Excel. I can really only think of one thing that's different off the top of my head, and it's just a matter of, you know, knowing where things are and finding things in the file menu and so on and so forth. But it's definitely, and knowing that there were a lot of questions on it, I was going to put a lot of emphasis on that anyway. All right, so Michelle, while we're on that topic, Michelle and I were having some conversation this week because we were discussing that it's somewhat difficult to spend 2 hours in a row going through content and then going through an extra help session. And we're almost done with today's time and we haven't done anything. We discussed going 15 minutes longer. We discussed moving the extra help session to another time during the day. I really need to keep it on the same day because of other jobs that I have. Thoughts on that?
For me, I'm just going to try to block out more time if I can, because as we get into these other units, I mean, I like having the direct support. So that's what I'll try to do. And if you're recording them, if I can't stay on, then watch them on my own time.
Well,
I also think, Debbie, kind of thinking about what we talked about, I think if at least for classroom and sheets, if we're looking more at like walking through a performance task, I think that'll make the time from like 9 to 10 a little bit more targeted for us. So that if you can't hang on until, you know, after 10 or even 10:15, then at least like you've seen like a demo of how it all connects and how it works and things like that. So I think that the shift of focus for the next couple weeks will help also. And I saw a couple heads nod as I was talking too.
So I feel like we need more than 60 minutes for Google Classroom and more than 60 minutes for Sheets. So can we make that an hour and 15 minutes? Does that work for everybody?
I'm good with that. If it doesn't work for somebody, you can just pop it in the chat. But we'll also, you know, we'll make the practice of continuing to record as well.
Okay. And it's everybody's job to remind me. The second time y'all didn't remind me, I told you. All right, well, let's quickly go to today's. What I did at the top of the agenda today was look at a couple of things that are kind of tricky from Gmail, and I'm going to assume and let me look at the chat here really quickly. If you are, is there anyone that is not familiar with using Meet? If you do, just put your name in the chat. I can't demonstrate Meet to you because I can't meet with you. So if you're not familiar with Meet, just put your name in there and somebody from your district can help you, can meet with you and chat with you just to see. Okay, good. That's what I figured. Okay.
Yeah, if anybody's not comfortable and you don't want to put it in the chat, that's totally fine too. Just reach out to me and I can get you guys up to speed also.
I would have put my name there a while back, so it's nothing to be ashamed of. I noticed in the questions on Gmail that there were some things about translating. There were a lot of things that they ask you about in the questions that they did not tell you how to do in the content. So I wanted to go over these three things: translating replies, color coding labels and stars, and adding and removing filters, because I really, if it's in there, it's very hidden and there were questions about it. So just really quickly in Gmail, where you would see this is translating replies. Let's say, for instance, I was in my inbox. Let me close this up again. I was in my inbox, and here's my email to Michelle. Let me see if I can make my thing a little bigger here so I can get to reply. In order for me to reply to her in another language, if I right-click on reply, whoops, I need to get over to the dots. Let me just open this up all the way. There we go. Up here by reply are 3 dots, and if I wanted to answer her in Spanish, I would click on these 3 dots and say translate message and be able to do that. once I replied to her. Okay, so that's where you get to translate message. Just about everything else that they talk about is always in settings. So here are the settings up here. If you click on settings, you get some quick settings to begin with. One of the things that they talk about is a priority inbox. If I click on priority inbox, then what it does on my inbox is it puts things that are prioritized at the very top. So I've got my starred and my important and unread up here. I can customize what I consider a priority. If I just have my default inbox, it's no longer there. So that's where that setting is. One of the other questions that asked you was, how does Gmail determine what important messages are? And it learns that by your mail habits. I can change the way, like right now I've got my inbox to the right. I can split it. I've got all kinds of customizations here. I've seen that question before, and then here's conversation view. But at the top is see all settings, and that's where you get to these other things. So if I scroll down on the first page, well, let me go here to labels. If I click on labels, that's where I find stars. All these labels that I already have were made because I've got all these mailboxes down here. I've got lots of mailboxes. It automatically makes a label for you based on your mailboxes. But if I want to add a label, like I added a label for y'all, I can add a label at the bottom. And sorry, here it is, create new label. I can create a new label there. I can change the color and do a bunch of other things to it. Filtering is here. If I want to filter, I can create a filter. So let's say I'm going to create a new filter, and anything that's from Michelle. And I'll tell you something I found out about this too. Anything that's from Michelle, I'm going to create a filter, and I'm going to say I want to, what happened to my star here? Mark as, always mark as important. And when I do that, now everything that Michelle sends me is marked as important. And if I go back to my inbox, all Michelle's stuff is at the top because it's important. So that's how you create a filter. I can go back in and take the filter off. And this is where I ran into trouble. I've got to research this a little bit. If I delete it, I can delete it, but I think everything from Michelle is still marked as important. Let's see. Yep. I'm not sure how to totally get rid of it, so I'm going to have to look at that. These little gold arrows mean that it's important. And then the other way to make it important is to star it. And on the first page on general, I have stars down here. I can, like, let me drag these back down to not in use. I can drag stars around. So now I have a yellow star and a purple star, and I have a yellow star, and I'll put this purple question mark up there. So when I get, and I'll go back over to an email. When I get to, whoops, I didn't save it. It doesn't let you mess up. Save changes. When I get back over to my email, so here's Michelle. If I wanted to star her, if I keep clicking it, I go through my different stars. So there's my question mark. So it did not show you how to do that in the training that I saw immediately. Maybe I dismissed it. So I did want to kind of show you that a little bit. Did anybody have any other questions about Gmail? I wanted to point out to you that to start a meeting, you do it from here, or you can also do it from the email that you compose. Actually, that's not true. That's from a calendar invite. You can do it from a calendar invite. So here's where you start your meeting if you have a Google Meet. Here's where you can join a meeting if you have the code. Everything else is pretty standard.
So you can start a meeting there that you haven't set up. I always go create a calendar invite for my Google Meets.
You can do either way.
Start a meeting. Okay.
Either way. So if they ask you about starting a meeting from Meet, I just wanted you to see that it was there. So if I start a meeting, I won't have anybody in it, but if I start a meeting, I can do it from there.
And then do you invite the person from there?
You can. I mean, you wouldn't. I would say you're going to use start a meeting after you've already invited them to it. So
I got you. I got you.
I'm going to create
Okay.
an invitation calendar, and then if I want to, I can start it from here or I can start in calendar.
Okay. 'Cause I remember there was a question like, where can you
Yeah.
start a meeting from? And yeah, I can't. Okay. Thank you.
Here's what I say: join from the mail invite. Started in mail, or you can go to meet.google.com and start it too.
Mhm.
Lots of times I'll do that. Okay, and so we went over groups last week. I did add the types of groups and permissions again. Were there any questions on that? All right, so I know some of you probably have to leave, but in lieu of what we talked about this morning, let's, instead of me going over Google Sites, let me tell you what to do in Google Sites, and then I'll do it and you can create your own. But let me just give you a quick review of it and how it works before we start. This is sites.google.com, just like mail.google.com, docs.google.com. This is all the sites I've ever made. Sometimes it's easier for me to get to them from here. But if I'm a teacher, I'm going to get to it from Google Drive. So if I'm in Google Drive, I'm going to go to New, More, and Sites. Let's just quickly go over the components of it, and then I'm going to give you some tasks to do, and we'll go over it together. We'll turn it into a performance task. So this is my first page. When you title your site, untitled site is going to stay here unless, all right, so now this is my site, is the name of my site, but what is it called at the top? Untitled. If you don't click up here, it's going to stay untitled. Well, normally it'll pick it up. Not this time.
Probably have to do it before you type it, right?
Before I get out of it, probably. You should be able to click up here and go up, but you need your name at both places because you don't want to lose it. These are your tools over on the side. You've got insert anything. This is how I add pages. This is how I change the theme of my site. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a meeting, but for those of you that do website work, well, let me rephrase that. This is an awesome tool for kids and teachers because it's simple. I can put this in front of a third grader and they can make a site with no instruction. But for people that make websites, it's incredibly frustrating because you're very limited. So this is the font I'm going to have. This is the color I'm going to have. I can change my font style, but I'm changing it for the whole site. I can't make changes, like I can't have one font on one page, one font on the next page. And that's kind of to create consistency. So you've got themes, pages, insert. Another little trick that you may not know is if you double click on a page, I get a little round box, and that gives me my main things, which are something from Drive, upload something, images, embed, text box. I've got layouts over here. I've got all different kinds of things, and we'll use them as we make something. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, and I'm going to ask you to share what you're doing in a few minutes too. What I'd like for you to do is to go ahead over to Google Drive and open up a site, open up a new site. I'm going to try to judge, you know, it would help me. I don't care what you look like, but if you have your camera on, I can kind of tell what you're doing and know when I need to move forward or whether I need to wait a few minutes. So if you don't mind putting your camera on, that would be helpful. And if you already know Google Sites, please don't feel like you have to stay. So after you open up and give it a title, then what I'd like for you to do is to come over and pick theme. And you can change it, you can change the theme at any time. Just, you know, pick something that you like. So you should have something that looks like this, a blank page with your site title. That's interesting. I changed it at the top and it didn't change it here. Make sure it's titled everywhere because I changed it. And you should have picked some type of a theme over here. So again, with the themes, every page I add is going to look like this. Now, this is my banner at the top of my home page. This is my home page. I can change the type of banner I have, a large banner, a banner, or title only. I can change the image. So I want you to add an image to your banner. You can figure it out on your own. It's pretty easy. And if you just kind of look up at me when you finish, then I'll know.
Thanks, bro. So this is currently what we have as our LDOC line sheet, right? Right. I'm going to, do I have, edit rights? I'm just gonna
Okay, so obviously I can upload an image from my computer if I want to, or when I go to select image, I've got a whole bunch of them, a whole gallery that they've given you. I can go to Google Drive, I can go to albums, or I can search. So I can search Google for, let's see here, that's yellow, so I'll look for a beach banner. I usually search for, use the word banner in it just because then I'll find something that's long and skinny. So I'll use this one. And that's how you add a picture. Now, do you see in the, well, you missed it, but in this little bottom right hand corner, you see these stars? That's, you'll see those pop up every once in a while. It's adjusting the image itself so that the text is more readable on it. All right, everybody good with that stuff so far? All right, so what I'd like you to do is to add a page. You have a pages tab over here. Add a page and name it. There's a big plus there. Where is on the plus, and I'm just going to call it beach or something. And you can see that it gives me my page names across the top. Now, mine has a little yellow line under it. Yours probably doesn't. That's part of the theme that I picked. That's just the way it is. I can't get rid of it. So if I change my theme, and I'll just show you so you can see, if I change my theme to impression, it changes everything. Now I've got, have it that way. Okay, so that's what I said. If you're used to making web pages, it's frustrating. So go back and add another page. I want you to have 3 pages.
I think what we could do is, at some point, we need to go through and add a column.
And you can see how clicking on my navigation bar up here gives me the different pages.
Say, okay, well, Teresa had this.
Okay. So far, so good. All right. So I want you to, let me show you how to insert a text box. And I'm going to show you a trick with the text box, and I'll let you just add some text. This doesn't have to be, I mean, you can just type anything in. So if I double click here, like I told you, that little round thing comes up, I can pick a text box. Now I've already got a yellow bar here, but I use this text box a lot to make a dividing point between my banner and my text. And I can do that by going over here to section background and coloring it. I'll say emphasis 2. So now I have that whole bar in there that I can make a divider. And if I just hit return, I'll get rid of the text, and then I can start entering text down here. So add some text to your first page. Just, I mean, it doesn't need to be anything fancy, just jibber jab. We don't have enough time to really type something.
Issue that we won't be able to fix, logical crack screen, just with really that stuff. I've got to be able to know that, hey, I have this column here that says switch that in.
And just like with any kind of text, in order to change it, I need to highlight it. So I have some choices up here. Melanie, what would I do if I wanted to make the text bold?
There's the traditional B for bold when you're inside the text session.
Here's what I want everybody to do. I want you to highlight your text, make it bold, and make it into a heading. See if you can figure out how to make it into a heading. So I would click on B to make it bold, and here are my different types of headings over here: title, heading, subheading, small. And you can see if you look at those, it just makes it into different size text. You'll also see that you don't have a choice of the size of the text. These are the only size choices you have: the small, subheading, heading, title, and normal text. So that's how you manipulate your text. The same thing. Whoops, let me highlight it again. The same thing here. If I want to make it italic, italic. If I want to center it, make it left centered, right centered. Or if I want to link it to something, here's where I would make it into a link. I'd click on the link. I could link it to another page, or I could link it to a URL. So let me find something here. I would just add the link in down here, and it makes a normal link. So make some type of a link on your first page. And Michelle, based on your comments earlier, I'll create another performance task with this and just send it out to everybody. So if they want to practice it, they can.
Awesome, thanks.
All right, questions so far? Everybody good? Okay. So now I want to add a picture. I'm going to double click below my text box. And my top box is image. So I'm going to click on images. and see if you can add a picture to your page.
I have a question. How did you get the text box out of that yellow box when you made it thick?
That's a good question. What I did was I just hit my space bar a couple of times so that it thinks that there's something in there, but it's not really.
It's like, I can't get rid of it.
But if you click right here and hit the space bar, it doesn't get rid of it. Is it still there?
No, I just didn't know how to get, you went so fast, I wasn't sure. And then I was trying and I couldn't, but that makes sense. It just kept saying, enter your text here.
Did you get it, Amanda?
Yes.
Good.
Where's the insert image for right there? I'm in my text box with my, and then,
Well, you can put it in your text box or you can put it under your text box.
yeah, I'm just, where's the little insert image button?
Well, you can do a couple of different things. Look over, everybody, look right here on my screen. See
Okay.
up here at the top, I have insert text box, insert image, insert embed, insert drive. I can go from here. I can just say insert an image, and wherever my cursor is, it's going to put it. Or I can double click right here, and they're the same things: embed, image, upload, drive, text. So you can do it either way, but just make sure that you're under your text box when you do it.
So this is weird. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So I'm trying to insert an image on my, my new homepage.
Okay.
I am down in, I've clicked so that I'm inside the text box I added. I go over to click images, I hit upload, and it throws me to my, the third page that I created.
That's
Like
weird.
Yeah.
You have this link to the third page? Did you link this to the third page, maybe?
No, it was funny because by accident I started on the fourth page, so you would think that it would have done it there, but the third page I hadn't.
I'm going to put an image here just to show you the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Select. I think one of the hardest things about this is understanding. Now, look, it didn't go where I wanted it to. So if I want, because I don't have enough room up here for it to go to, if I wanted to put a picture up here, see what happens when I click and drag that picture? It gives me all kinds of lines. So if I come up here and try to put it in the text box, it takes over the text box or it makes it really big. So I have to resize it. So you have to kind of think about, I usually just keep everything separate, or you can take your text box, and this is a little more complicated than I think what they would ask you to do. You can take your text box and make it smaller, click it and drag it. Come on, text box. Which apparently is not working very well for me today. Make my text box smaller here. There we go. If I make my text box smaller, then I can drag another picture up beside it. So you can drop and drag, but if you put a picture in a text box, I'm going to drag this in and so I can show you. Well, it didn't go in. It's going to make it full size. So you have options there. Now, all of these pictures, if I click on this, all of these pictures are in that text box. That's why I usually try to keep it separate. And then later, if I want to use it, I can. So play around with the images on your page. See what happens if you put them other places. You can drag it anywhere. As you can see, I just dragged mine up in my header. Okay, click on your Pages tab in the upper right-hand corner, Insert Pages Themes. And suppose I wanted to have a sub-page on one of my pages. So let's take my beach page. I have, anytime there's 3 little dots, or I call them a snowman sometimes, there's always something else. So if I click on the snowman, now I can add a sub-page. So if I say beach and my sub-page is sand, and I want to add another sub-page under beach, and the sub-page is water. Now you see when I click on beach, I have these sub-pages underneath it. So add 2 sub-pages to your second page.
I missed something.
Okay. When you make
I don't even have any
pages,
anything under my pages. Like, how do I add that?
add
I
one.
missed that part.
Click on plus.
I had to reset my password.
That's okay. Reset plus down here at the bottom, and that's how you create a page.
Where's that at?
On the so at the very top of my screen in the upper right-hand corner, I have insert.
Pages.
Themes. Click on pages, and now click on plus at the bottom.
Okay.
And make a page, and then.
I see it. This is hard to do with all these windows, huh?
It is.
Yeah, it's covering up some of my icons. Okay. I see that.
Moving everything out of the way.
Yeah, I see that. Okay.
Okay. And then to make the sub page, you click on the 3 dots. Now, just to show you this too, I can drag stuff over here. So if I don't want sand to be a sub page, I can drag it down here. I should be able to do that.
Okay.
Okay. And you can reorder pages. If you reorder pages, it changes it on the menu. So you can drop and drag everywhere in here. All right, questions about that, anybody? All right, so go to your second page. Here's my page 2. And then I can also get to it up here from my menu bar. And go back to your insert menu. Now, if you look right here, these are all different kinds of layouts for your page. We're not going to do a layout right now, but I'll give you one of those to do on your example task. And by the way, when I give you this task, it's going to be much more than you would normally have to do, but it'll cover anything that you should be able to do. Down here at the bottom, I've got other things too. I've got buttons, dividers, placeholders. I can insert a YouTube video, a calendar, a map, a doc, a slide, a sheet, anything. So let's go into Docs and find a Google Doc. It's going to automatically take me to my recent docs, and go ahead and embed that in your page. So I go to Insert Docs, I pick it, and then I click Insert at the bottom. So that's the way I put that Google Doc in the other site that you had. And as you can see, I obviously cannot see the entire document. So I can drag this button at the bottom to show more of it. I think if you try to show all of it, it's going to be a little bit on the crazy side, but at least you can show the first page. And you see that up here on my screen in the upper left-hand corner, I've got a trash can if I want to delete it, or this opens it in a new tab. So whenever you see a Google Doc and a Google site, you can open up the whole page, just like the tips that I gave you. You can open up the whole page and you don't have to be able to see the entire thing. All right, so click underneath that doc. You don't want to insert it on top of it. Click underneath it. And this time insert a YouTube video.
Yeah, Deb, did you just do all of this? You picked a page and then inserted a doc in the page?
Yes. So what I did was I picked a page. Let me show you again. I'm going to trash this. I'm on a page. I'm on my SandBridge page. And I'm going to click on Docs. And it lets me see my most recent things I've used. So here's a page I showed you all this morning. Or I can search for anything. I've got my search up here. I can search for anything. And I just click Insert, and that puts it in there.
Okay.
And now I'm going to click underneath it, and I'm going to add a YouTube video. So I can search to find a YouTube video. Now, here's what I don't like about this particular version of doing it. So now here's all different kinds of YouTube videos about SandBridge, and I have no idea what any of them are. I'll just pick one just for the sake of showing you. But now I'm going to go back. I'm going to go find this video and show you another way to do it. Let's see if I can go over to YouTube and find one. So here's if I can find the same video. Well, let's do Virginia Beach. So here's my Virginia Beach video. Let me pause it. And over here under settings, hold on, let me find the embed code. Where they got it? I have to go full screen, I think. It should be here. Oh, here it is down here. I lost my embed code. Share, embed. Let me do that again. Here's my video, because I did it wrong the first time. This is my Virginia Beach video. Under share, just to show you how an embed code works, because that's one of the things you can add on the site. I go to share, and then I pick the embed code, and I grab the whole thing and copy it. Or I can just click copy. And now when I go back to my site, instead of doing it the way we just did it, because now I can see what I did, I can go back up to embed, paste it. Whoops, I didn't get the whole thing. Let me go back. Copy. Embed, paste it. Well, it must not be a valid URL. I must pick the wrong one. Whoops, by URL. Gotta go to embed code. Paste it. You see what I did wrong?
Yeah, I'll see that.
I could have, if I was here on the URL, I could have put the URL of the video, but I got the embed code. So I'm just going to paste that in here, say next, and insert it that way. So it's the same thing, but this way I can look at it and see what it is. This is the other way. But for right now, if you just know how to add a video, which is to come down here and click YouTube, you'll be fine. And all these other things I can add as well. And honestly, y'all, I mean, pretty much that's almost everything that you need to know about making a Google site. It seems a lot harder than it is, but you just need to know that on this insert page, I can insert these 4 main images. I can come down here, I can make a table of contents if I want to. An image carousel is, let me show you on another page. I'll get you to do one of those in your performance task, is a bunch of different images. So let me find a Google image search here, and we'll do SandBridge again, because that's where I want to be. I'll pick a bunch of pictures of SandBridge, and I'll say insert. It makes like a little slideshow. Which is pretty cool if you're teacher making it for kids. And now I can go through the different pictures. We haven't talked about publishing it yet. We're going to talk about that, and you won't be able to see this until we publish it. All right, so let's talk about this stuff up here at the top. If I want to see what my site looks like, I'm going to click on preview. And now I can see my little image carousel that I made. You can see where it just takes me through a bunch of different pictures. This is what it's going to look like to the viewer without me having to publish it. It looks pretty raw right now. Here's my document. If I want to pop it out, I can click on this. Okay, my image carousel and so on and so forth. You can see that I need to hit back to get back to my site. Oh, let me show you one other thing really quickly. I'm sorry. See down here at the bottom? Right now it's showing me what it looks like on a computer. This is what it would look like on a tablet.
Nice.
What it would look like on a phone. So you get to see what it looks like on all the different, and it is optimized to be able to work well on all of those. Nice. So I'll hit back to go to where I can work on it again. And I'll hit back one more time. Okay, now I'm back in edit mode. If I want to share this with somebody, so let's say I want for me and, okay, is it Nordine, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. If I want to share it with Nordine, then I can come here and I can add Nordine and we can work on it together, just like any other Google Doc. Things are exactly the same. So there's no way I'm going to be able to find Nordine's email address, but I could share it with him and we could work on it together.
Okay.
My settings are here. Really the only thing in here that I really don't think they will ask you anything in here, but just to be aware of the fact that if you have Google Analytics cut on your district, you can cut Google Analytics on. And this announcement banner is probably a convenient thing for right now. So let's say at the top of my site, I wanted to say, these are our COVID responses with a link to it. You could put something like that there. But they're not going to ask you about that.
Could you take a step back when you was able to share it with me?
Okay. I didn't share it with you though.
Right. But where would you go at that point to do the permissions?
Okay, so if I added you.
Okay.
Oh, you have.
I didn't add you. So just give me the start of your email.
NMUHAMM AD.
Is that it?
2.
There are 2 of you at Philly?
At philisd.org.
PhilISD?
philisd.org.
Okay.
You have 2 N's. It's an NM.
Okay, thank you.
That's Muhammad.
Yeah.
Okay, so now if I click here, looks like I have to go back and give it to you after I didn't add you. Shoot. NM, there you are. Okay, so now that I've got the right address in,
Okay.
I can come over here and make you an editor or a viewer.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's a good question. It's a good question. And finally, the last thing is the 3 dots. Version history. If you went, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't done that, you can go back just like in a Google Doc. This is all privacy policy, take a tour. And the last thing is publish. So when I click on publish, it's going to publish my site. Now, it used to be that you could publish it only in Philadelphia School District, and you may have that option now. If you click on publish, do you see publish only to people in the Philadelphia school system?
I wouldn't know. We didn't.
Okay. Somebody look on their site, click publish on their site and see.
I did it and it said that anyone with the link can view. Well, and I wasn't sure if it was just view.
Okay, let's go back up here. See where
Mine had it where it said that.
The blue publish button up beside my name. It should look something like this. It says publish to the web.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any documentation there that says that only people in Philadelphia schools can look at it?
Mine said that.
Okay, it used to be that you could do that. The only thing that I have is that I can request that public search engines do not display my information. And I can change, if you can view my site, you can manage it, which just means that you can use it basically. So that's how you publish it. And once you publish it, I can add a custom URL if I want to. If I add a custom URL, here's the URL right now is, let me get out of this and get where I need to be. I'm gonna go back to home. I'm gonna publish. Whoops, sorry guys. I'm gonna publish. If I wanna add a custom URL, I can do that. Put it in here, your Philly, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And then I just hit publish. And after I've published it one time, then I can, I don't want to add a custom URL. After I've published it one time, then it'll show me side by side. Let me get this off for a second. It'll show me side by side. Here's what it used to look like. Here's what it looks like now. And you can decide if you want to publish it or not. Okay. So that really is the gist of sites. Like I told you, it's not that difficult to use. It's just a matter of getting used to it and knowing where things are. I am going to say that, let me share screen again. I'm going to say the main things you need to focus on are, how do I create a site? I go over to Drive, New, More, Sites.
Mm-hmm.
They may ask you a question about sites.google.com, but if you do, you know where it is now, sites.google.com. Just remember that anything.google.com is going to take you to stuff, okay? So when you're in your site, you need to know how to make a page. Click Pages and click the plus. They'll get you to add a picture. They'll get you to add a text box. They might get you to embed something. I think we need to go back over to that in just a minute. We did not talk about Drive, but I can go click on the Drive button. And there's my entire drive right in front of me. I can add anything that I want to add.
Okay.
So if I wanted to add this map, I could add this map. So anytime you have something that you're going to put on a website, it's usually easier just to put it in Drive and add it. My different layouts are here. If I wanted to have a layout where I have this type of a look, let's see what that does to what I already have in here. Messes it all up. Pick your layout first. That gives you different places to add different things. So you can add different layouts. I don't think they're going to ask you to do a different layout.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, absolutely.
So I added a sub site, and then I changed the name, and it changed on the actual site, but not in the homepage, like when you see the header. So.
All right, so explain to me what you did again. You added a sub
Sure.
site.
Subsite. So say for beach, you add a subsite, and then your beach,
Okay.
what are your subsites?
Okay.
Or so say it's water, and then you decide to go back and change it to rocks. The site itself says rocks, but mine would still say water as the subsite.
So the way you have to do that is to go over here under pages and water. It doesn't have a rename, so you have to delete it and add it again.
Gotcha.
Now, if you double click the word of the page under pages, if you double click water, you should be able to rename it on the pages menu.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
There you go. Thank you, whoever that was.
Yeah, I lived in Google Sites the past 3-4 months, so.
All right, so you should know how to make a page. I don't know that they're going to make you make sub pages, but it's the 3 dots beside it. Add any of these things. If they get you to add them, they'll give them to you to add. Like if they want you to add a Google Doc, they'll give it to you. If they want you to add a map, it all works the same way. The one thing I would caution you about is, let me see if I can show you over here. You have to be careful. Let's say I'm gonna add a text box. Again, this is my text box. You have to be careful to get out of this text box and not stay in it if you want to add something else. So say I want to add a calendar. I'm going to add, I don't know. I don't even know what this is going to be, but we'll see. Because if you don't, then it can get inside the text box. So just make sure that when you're adding something that's in a text box, click out of it before you add something else. Make sure you're clicked out of it. And I mean, that's add a page, change my theme, publish. I really don't think they're going to know how to share it. I mean, definitely know how to share it. I don't think they're going to do anything under settings or more. And that's pretty much it. Just your basic things, because you have to remember this is like a 10-minute site. So what I'll do is I'm going to email all of you, since I don't, let's see, how will I do this? Yeah. I'll email all of you the task cards that you had. Kind of did this. Let's see what number I started with. I thought, maybe not. Let's go 13. Okay, so create a new site, name it your name, pick a color and a theme, add a banner, add a text box, add 3 pages, add a picture view, embed a map, embed a YouTube video, add an image carousel, publish your site. So is that kind of what you were wanting, Michelle?
Yeah, I think this would help.
Well, those are, and maybe this is what needs to change. Maybe what needs to change is that you do the task cards after we meet, so that you have a chance to have a little bit of background. I mean, you should be able to get the information from the unit 4 and 6 that you did to be able to do this. So that's what I did. I looked at the information and I created something for you to be able to do. Maybe what I'll do is just add a second one for everything to make sure that you get a little more practice. I want to go back though and go back over this embed code again, because I kind of fumble through that and I want to make sure you know how to do it. If I go, I'm just going to add a new page so I can call it embed code and show you from there. All right, so I'm going to add an embed code. Here's a new blank page. In order for me to add an embed code, I have to have something to embed. So this is going to be where I'm going to insert an embed code, and it wants to know what's the embed code. I can do it 2 ways, by the URL, that might be the simplest, or by the embed code. Let me show you both ways. I'm going to go back to YouTube again and find something. So here I'm in YouTube, and I'm going to pick 2-month-old baby's first words. I have no idea what this is. Okay, so I have the URL right up here. Here's my URL. And I'm not sure why that changed when I clicked it. Let me. All right. Here is my URL.
I know you want to talk.
Okay, it's my URL. If I go back to my site and I say embed code by URL, paste it in there. There it is, insert. Easiest way, right? Let me show you the other way just in case. I'm in YouTube, and you're going to need to know this for YouTube anyway. If I click on share, embed, copy, share, embed, copy, I'll write that down for you somewhere too. Now I'm going to come back over to my site and say embed code. I click on embed code at the top. Paste it. Next. There it is. Let's see if there's any difference in the way it looks.
A little bit. Look like it got a black bar on it.
Yeah. So this is
Yeah.
This gives you the controls at the bottom, and this gives you the whole thing. So
Can you slide up? Let me see the first video.
yeah. I like that one better.
It looks exactly the same, actually.
It does, but you've got some controls down here at the bottom.
Oh, okay, I see that.
I don't see what it's really controlling. It doesn't look like it's really controlling anything.
I think it's just actual. It put like a whole. It put it in a box, a bigger box, maybe.
So either way works.
Right.
As long as you know that you click on embed and either get the URL or the embed code. Some things you have to embed, like let's say for instance, you can embed a Google form in the page. You have to get the embed code for that. You can't embed the URL, and that'll embed the whole form in the page. You can use the form. Okay, y'all, what questions do you have?
how did you get on the top of your site? You actually have your pages in a drop down. My pages are still on the side of the site.
That's a good question. If you look over my pages, my beach page has 3 subpages. So if I wanted to make a subpage under Sandbridge, there are 3 little dots. If I click on it, I can say add a subpage, and I can make it my house or something. Now, just so you'll know, well, to me, that's the easiest way to do it. I can move pages around. I can make this sand page be up under Sandbridge too. I can drag it. I can drag it out, but it's just a little bit harder sometimes to drag it than it is to just make it. So, but you can drag it. So if I didn't have any subpages under here, let me take them all out. It's a little harder to get them out than it is to get them in. Just drag them over to the left. You can see how it's harder. Come on, you. That's why I like the subpage thing. So now they're all just pages across the top. Home, Sandbridge, beach, embed code, rock, sand. I can drag them up underneath a page and make it.
I don't have any of them on the top of my site. They're all to the right.
Okay, then you have a different, yours is done differently. Let's see where you change that.
Okay.
And I knew this last night. I gotta find it again
I
here.
just seen something that said top mode or something. Go back.
It's under, you can make the menu around down the side, or
I think you were just in it. In the settings, yeah. Where it says mode.
top.
Right.
See, now mine are on the side too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions?
Can you copy a link and put on these pages rather than do it by URL or?
So can I insert a link?
Yeah.
So if I want to add a link,
You would have to do it by the URL like you're showing us, or?
you have to do it here. I can insert, I can copy it. So here's, get out of my way stuff. Copy. Did I lose my site? So here's my site. And if a link has to be in a text box. So I can just, I can put it here, but that's not going to link it. That's my old link without doing this, right? Because that puts I can have it there, but I still have to link it. Just copying it doesn't link it. You have to use the link. Just like when you're putting a link on a Google Doc. If I copy and paste it, we'll see what happens if I do this. If I copy and paste a link in a Google Doc, let's find this one. If I copy and paste a link in a Google Doc and then I hit return, it looks like it might post it as a link just because it knows it's a link. Let's see. Yep, it looks like you don't even have to link it. It knows it's a link, so it puts it in there. So the answer to your question is yes, then. What other questions, y'all? Remember, just basics. Make a site, add some pages, add a picture, add a text box, insert some stuff from the side, embed a YouTube video. And that's all it's going to be. It's not going to be anything fancy because you're talking 10 minutes. So if you've not done it yet, if you go over to the cards, you've got, here's a good activity for you to do. Time yourself when you do it. I think there's only one on sites, yeah. But there's also some things for mail, some things that tells you, some tasks it tells you to do in mail. And I believe there's some things for just mail and tasks this time. I'll add a couple of other tasks in here. So if you want to have some extra things to practice with, you can. Other questions, other thoughts? Michelle, what else would be helpful that I'm not doing
In terms of sites,
in terms of anything?
I think that's a lot for now.
Okay.
Sharing the performance tasks, because I think would be helpful. I'm to be perfectly honest, I'm multitasking while I'm here because I was good with sites, so I wasn't fully engaged the past 20 minutes or so.
You don't need to stay if you don't need it.
No. So I wanted to hear any questions or anything like that.
Okay. It's a lot of information in a hurry. Next week will be Google Classroom, and I know that I've got see what we got here. Yeah, I definitely have some performance tests there. I might look at them a little bit and see if I need to change them to make them a little more like the performance test itself. But I'll peek at that, and then I'll add an extra just whole performance test in there for you. Let me ask you all, does it make more sense to do these task cards before our meeting or after our meeting?
I don't know.
I feel like what I'm hearing you say is that shouldn't just be task cards. That should be performance tasks based on, well, I mean, and I thought that's what I was doing, but I can make it more like a Google performance task so that you have something to practice with after we've met together.
Yeah, and I think kind of listening to some of the questions also, I think it would be also helpful, whether we share them before or after, to actually spend the time together walking through some of them, or at least one of them.
All right. We will switch it that way. And I'm going to stay on if anybody has any questions about mail or Meet or groups or the other things. I'll be on for a while if you need anything. So if you have any other questions about sites, I'll be glad to answer them now, or I'll answer questions about anything if you have any. And those of you that are going to go, thank you so much for being here today. By the time we get to the last week, we'll have this great.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
This was very helpful.
Signing out.
Very helpful to go through the performance tasks together.
Okay.
Yeah, I like you going over the key components of what we learned just as a review, and then moving into like a learn by doing.
Okay.
I do like the review that you've been doing. I think that's very helpful, even with some of the multiple choice, because some of them are tricky. I think what you're doing is helpful, and if you could add, I mean, maybe we're doubling the time, but adding that component of performance-based.
I'm going to try to bring in review questions every week just to kind of keep us going with the things that we've done before.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll do some more sample questions from the test every week. And then what I tried to do this time was that things that are tricky that you may not have known were tricky,